The story of the cancelled Star Wars game Darth Maul Battle of the Sith Lords is just one story of the waste and blundering during the final years of LucasArts. The story starts in 2010. Redfly Studios had just ported The Force Unleashed 2 onto the Wii. Although we established in my previous Force Unleashed videos that LucasArts considered The Force Unleashed 2 to be a failure, the Wii port actually scored 10 points higher on Metacritic, and LucasArts took notice. And as Whitwer said,
if you do a good turn for Lucasfilm, they tend to remember that.
In October 2010, Redfly and LucasArts signed a retainer where Redfly would percolate ideas and concepts and start working on basic mechanics for a Darth Maul video game. The primary pitch that Redfly came up with was a gritty origin story, with a young Maul tortured and forced against his will into the ranks of the Sith. But LucasArts had already started planning to use Darth Maul in their Clone Wars animated series, and they wanted the game to tie into that story. And so Redfly's origin story was binned in favour of a tie-in to the Clone Wars universe. But LucasArts didn't want to share any of the planned storylines for the TV show in case of leaks. Redfly were told that Darth Maul had survived the final battle in the Phantom Menace and that he now had robotic legs. Now, with no more lore than that to go on, Redfly spent months and months knocking up a working prototype, partly inspired by Batman Arkham Asylum. Fear-based mechanics, stealth force powers, silent takedowns. Imagine it. Now, after flying out to LucasArts HQ several times, Redfly were finally told that Darth Maul has spider legs. And so all their work had to be binned. Again. The wastefulness on both sides led to Redfly flying out again and again and again, and finally this time for a face-to-face meeting with Big George himself. And this is actually what happened next. The team get to LucasArts HQ and they're initially briefed on how to talk to George. Never say no. Never say that will be easy. And under absolutely no circumstances are you ever allowed to mention Starkiller. Most importantly of all, don't ever tell George how the Force works. Redfly arrived at the meeting to find someone taking down Force Unleashed artwork and putting up more relevant artwork, because apparently that is literally someone's job at LucasArts. Now Big G saunters in the room, and before Redfly could really finish their pitch, he cuts them off. He walks over to two sideshow collectible statues of Darth Maul and Darth Talon. He rotates them to face one another, and he says, "They're friends." For absolutely no reason at all, George now wants Darth Maul and Darth Talon to be friends. He likened the idea of the story to the show Burn Notice. He wanted Darth Maul to be like Sonny from The Godfather, and for Darth Talon to be like Lauren Bacall. He actually did an impression of her. "Don't you know how to whistle? Put your lips together and blow." The problem now is that some poor sap at Redfly needs to tell George Lucas that Darth Maul and Darth Talon are separated by about 160 years of history. Even if the two did ever meet up, Darth Maul would be 200 years old. And George just goes, "Well, that's fine. We'll make him a clone of Darth Maul." Now, Redfly left that meeting with their heads spinning. They were starting again. Lucasfilm insisted on enforcing a tight grip on this production, leaving Redfly at the mercy of their financial decisions. Without receiving any sign-offs for game milestones and burgeoning to around 80 members of staff, Redfly were spinning out endless content for a game which still had no solid direction, and they were spending money faster than they could earn it. After suggesting that the studio could be purchased as a fully owned subsidiary of LucasArts, LucasArts suddenly halted all communication with Redfly. After weeks of silence, on June the 24th, 2011, Redfly received an email with the subject line, "Maul Termination Letter." The game was dead. Redfly shed 70% of its workforce, and the Darth Maul game joined its brothers on the shelf of unmade games. But then, nearly 5 years later, Redfly CEO Dan Borth took to Reddit and claimed that Redfly would be re-pitching their idea to EA. Borth said that Redfly intended to present a gameplay demo to the powers that be. Borth hoped that rekindling interest with the online community might push EA into greenlighting their doomed project. The game was still in a rough form, so the core combat loop could have been adapted to anything EA could have thought of. However, since that AMA, Redfly haven't been heard from again. Late in 2016, Redfly Studios were quietly acquired by Swedish publisher Gaming Core. Whilst no announcements have been publicly made, Gaming Core are still using that leaked Maul footage on their corporate website. Does this mean the Darth Maul game still has a glimmer of hope? Arkham Asylum with Force powers, I mean, that's right up my street, but would you want to be in a game where you play as Darth Maul? For more Star Wars gaming videos, please subscribe to The Game Show.
Perfect.